Welcome. And thank you for being with us tonight for the City Council Candidates Forum for the November 8th, 2022 election. I'm Liz Niss, President of the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto. The League was formed in 1920 after women won the right to vote. The League envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League is nonpartisan, meaning we neither support nor do we oppose candidates or parties. Our organization has two distinct roles. One is advocacy for public policy issues about which we have studied and developed formal positions. The other is voter service, which brings voters impartial information on issues and candidates. Voter service is the hat we're wearing tonight in presenting this forum where you can learn about the City Council candidates running to represent you in Palo Alto. I'd like to remind everyone that candidates have all agreed to participate under guidelines which are set for this forum. The forum will be recorded and aired locally, including the League's YouTube channel, the link to which will be found on our website, LWVPaloAlto.org, as well as MidPenn's website. Note that whenever this recording is aired, it must be shown in its entirety to ensure that no candidate statements are used out of context. All candidates have agreed to this requirement. And now it's my pleasure to turn the microphone over to our wonderful moderator, Hannah Liu.
Thank you, Liz. Good evening, everyone. I'm proud to be a member of the League and to be part of bringing you this opportunity to hear from 7 candidates who are running for City Council. 3 of the 7 seats on the council are up for election this year. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Alex Kamsa, Lisa Forsell, Brian Hamachek, Ed Lawing, Julie Lidcock-Hames, Doria Suma, and Vicky Winker. Welcome. I want to remind the candidates and the audience that this evening, we are hosting a forum, not a debate. There's no rebuttal and candidates have been asked to focus on their own campaign. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the format of our session. Given the number of questions we have, we're extending the finish time from 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. to cover more issues, and we hope you will stay with us till the end. To help keep us all on track, we will be keeping time using a computerized stopwatch. I remind our candidates to respect our time limits. We will begin with an opening statement of up to 2 minutes from each candidate. The order was determined randomly ahead of time. We will then have a question period. Candidates will be called on in varying order for each question and will have up to 1 minute each to respond to the first set of questions and will have up to 30 seconds each to respond to the second set of questions. Questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from all those who sign up to attend. We have screened the question to avoid duplication and to cover as wide a range of issues as possible. If time allows, we will also take questions from the audience during the forum. The audience may email them to forumquestions@googlegroups.com, and this email address is being posted in the chat box now. Note that we have deactivated the chat function. Following the question period, we will hear a closing statement from each candidate of up to 1.5 minutes. These statements will be in the reverse order of opening statements. Now let's get started. We will begin with the opening statement with Mr. Lawing. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd really like to thank the League. I love your dedication to keeping democracy vibrant, and in these times, you might even say keeping democracy alive. I've lived in Palo Alto for 34 years. I think I know what people like about our town and what they don't, and I certainly know the issues. My day job here has been in business, in book publishing, and 3 times as a software CEO. and then executive recruiter for the last dozen years. Well, my passion has been around community service. And before starting on commissions, I started community service on the Board of Urban Ministry, UMPA, which deals with homelessness. We ended up merging that into Envision, which ultimately merged into Life Moves. And that group is now running our transitional housing project for the homeless down on San Antonio. So I know something about that, and it's wonderful. I'm a proven leader in Palo Alto city government because I have almost 13 years of consecutive service on city commissions and results in two commissions, planning and parks. And my breadth of the issues that I've dealt with span practically every category of importance in town, which is, parks and open space and housing and zoning and traffic and parking migration and safe bikes and so on. I also have proven my ability to get along with others cordially to accomplish our goals, which is only critical on city council. And that's my reputation among residents and colleagues and staff for doing my homework and bringing a region and reasonable and collegial approach to deliberations. What I want to accomplish for you next is on housing, plan for the right mix of housing types and especially fund affordable housing. I've just spent the last 18 months doing that on the Housing Element Working Group as co-chair. I want to reduce street crimes and enhance public safety. And on climate change, I want to take some concrete action to implement climate action change. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this. I was born in Palo Alto. I went to Walter Hayes, Jordan, Palo Alto High School. I've lived in 5 different neighborhoods of Palo Alto. I've rented, I've owned a home. I started a business here. I just love this city. It really is more than a city to me. It really is home. I've been here almost my entire life. Well, the catalyst that got me thinking about running was after the Castellea project and watching all the residents fight against that project for about 5 years. And the city just didn't seem to be listening to their concerns. And that just didn't seem right to me. So I started to think about running. I think that Palo Alto is at a really pivotal time right now. And the next couple of years are really going to set the city on a direction. And I'd like to be a part of that. And I think that having been born here, I have a perspective that would be really valuable in the council. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Forsell, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lisa Forsell. I am running for a welcoming, affordable, and sustainable Palo Alto. I'm looking forward to elaborating on what that means through this forum. What it translates into as my campaign priorities is number 1, housing, building new homes of all sizes to serve all income levels, to welcome new folks and support those who are already here. Number 2, transportation options, bike infrastructure, shuttles, ties to regional transit. And number 3, climate, modernizing our electric grid and our neighborhoods to convert to clean electric power over natural gas, as well as to prepare for the inevitable sea level rise, drought, and wildfire risk that we are already starting to encounter. I've served as a commissioner on the Utilities Advisory Commission for 6 years, including 2 as chair. On the commission, I've advised on the city's electricity, gas, and water supply projects. I've been an advocate for sustainability, renewable energy projects, EV charging access, and local grid modernization. As a member of the budget subcommittee, I've provided oversight over the $300 million plus utilities budget. And I'm proud of the fact that Palo Alto utilities rates are lower than those in neighboring communities that are served by PG&E. I have over 20 years of experience and 15 film credits in technology and creativity at Pixar and Apple, where I'm known as somebody who lifts up the team and delivers the project. I have master's degrees in environment and resources and computer science, as well as an MBA, all from Stanford. My family has lived in Palo Alto for over 14 years. I have 3 kids who have gone through the Palo Alto school system. My youngest is still in 7th grade. I am passionate about public service and excited to serve. I'm proud to be endorsed by many local leaders, and I'd be honored to earn your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Haynes.
Okay, let's try this again. Can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay, I was using an external microphone and I'm going to put that away. I apologize for the delay. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Lithcott-Hames, and occasionally I have tech problems. I'm delighted to be here with the League. My mother is a proud member of the League of Women Voters. She wears that t-shirt, "Democracy is not a spectator sport." And I just so value the role you play in our thriving, vibrant Palo Alto. I did not grow up here. I came here for college in 1985 and pretty much never looked back, except for 3 years spent back east at Harvard Law School. But my partner Dan and I had fallen in love with each other as we fell in love with Palo Alto, and we decided to try to set down roots here, as many of you can relate to. We were able to buy a home here in 2000 with the help of my amazing mother. We live in a 3-generational home here on Maybell Way. That's how we made our Palo Alto dream work, which I know a number of you can relate to. 3 generations conspiring together to buy one damaged house in Palo Alto to get our kids to the amazing public schools. That's my Palo Alto story. We've had some hiccups and bumps. We had neighbors behaving in really inappropriate ways when we were trying to rebuild our house. And that was my first encounter with a process of local control that can really sort of cross the line. I don't want that to happen to anyone else in our city. My background is I'm a lawyer. I practiced corporate law here in Palo Alto. I was a senior level Stanford dean for many years, where I was known for creating visionary change and galvanizing people toward a better future. I've served on over a dozen nonprofit boards here in our amazing city, on the peninsula, and around the country. I'm currently on the trustee board at California College of the Arts. I'm running because Palo Alto is at a gridlock. We've had a gridlock in decision-making, really called out by the civil grand jury in Santa Clara County. They're particularly calling us out for what we have failed to do when it comes to building affordable housing. I'm running because I think my track record and my personality and my abilities and experience are such that I can help
Thank
break
you.
through that gridlock. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Winker?
Well, good evening, and thank you, Hannah, and thank you to the League for giving us this opportunity to speak to voters. I'm very grateful to the League for that. I'm running because I care deeply about Palo Alto. My husband and I have lived here for 30 years. We too started out as renters and now have been homeowners for some time. We've had 2 daughters who attended our exceptional public schools, and both of my parents came and spent their final years here. So I've seen how our youngest and our oldest experienced this city. And Palo Altans tell me that they're frustrated and want a council that will move more quickly toward meeting our climate goals, addressing our unmet housing needs, and restoring /city services. We all want to get to yes, and I have a track record of doing it. I've been a mediator for the International Trade Commission, for the federal courts, and I've also run a consensus building program on healthcare policy in Sacramento, and we have a brand new state law to show for it. I'm also comfortable with innovation. I've founded new organizations like Women's Professional Soccer and Sibling Cities USA. I've also worked with top inventors for over 30 years as a patent attorney. And as an attorney, I know how to listen to those I represent and understand their needs and then go and advocate for them. And that's what I'll do for the residents of Palo Alto, to make sure that we hit our 80 by 30 climate goals and to make sure we have renter protections. I've served on the board of the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley for 20 years, and that has been our business to help tenants. I also want to make sure that we increase affordable and economically diverse housing with access to green space so that old and new residents alike can enjoy a high quality of life. I'll also work to ensure that we successfully restore city services to increase public safety, libraries, and parks. I'm ready to help our great community and unleash Palo Alto's potential, and I respectfully request your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Alex Kamsa. I'm running for change for a bright future of Palo Alto. I moved to Palo Alto in 2010, and one of the reasons is the diversity of the community. 30% of Palo Alto consists of immigrants, and I'm one of them. Came here in '97 with $2,500 in my pocket, a product of excellent European public schools without spending a penny on my education. And now I'm privileged to be living and working in Palo Alto. And I truly feel like I belong to this wonderful community now. I also want this feeling to be experienced by our essential workers, policemen, firefighters, nurses, teachers, and I will address that through my smart housing proposal as well. The future of Palo Alto is really at stake here, and 90% of the city council decisions are related to land use and finance related, which is precisely the expertise I bring to the table. We are not really here to experiment with the future of Palo Alto. I have a proactive approach when it comes to state mandated housing element while preserving the character of Palo Alto. I believe that my leadership, energy, and commitment to a nonpartisan focus will lead to a more united, decisive, and efficient city council. Public safety is definitely one of my priorities, small businesses, and definitely climate change, besides affordable housing. So please join me in collectively moving the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And rounding us up is Ms. Suma.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the League for having this event, maybe since 1920. Wow. So I have lived in Palo Alto for 37 years. I moved here from Chicago. And in the last 15 years, I've been in service to the city. Started out with neighborhood association things and moved on to city boards and committees. I'm currently serving as the vice chair of the Planning Commission. And during that time, I've had the opportunity to interact with a lot of people in the city staff, city council, residents, citizen expert groups. And I've learned something from all of those people. I've learned how the city works, and I've learned what people are concerned about in the city, and I am ready to go to work for you. This is a great city to live in. It's not perfect, no place is, but I think it's important to remember that the great aspects of this city that we enjoy so much aren't accidents. Those were choices made by former leaders, both elected and citizens, that make this city so great. So my approach is sort of residents and small businesses first. I want to enhance the present experience, and I'd like to plan for a great future while working with all the users of the city and welcoming new neighbors. Important issues before us, of course, climate and housing. My emphasis would be on creating affordability in housing. Climate change, I want to include in greenhouse biodiversity and habitat for native species. Crime and safety, there's a huge perception that the city is not as safe as it once was, and I want to help with that, especially a safe place for our youth to live and thrive.
Thank you, everyone. Now it's time for the candidates to answer your questions. You have 1 minute for these questions. The first one is about affordable housing. Palo Alto has a goal of 6,086 housing units for all income groups, about 60% of which needs to be affordable for lower and moderate income households. There have been no affordable housing projects in our city in the past 10 years, except for the current one on El Camino Real and Walton Court that will provide 59 units. If elected, how are you going to deliver all the housing that we need, and what funding sources have you considered? Ms. Winker, you'll be the first one to answer this question.
Well, thank you for the question, because it really is the critical question here in our community. So affordable housing funding sources, let's start with that, because it's so expensive to build here in Palo Alto that it's as much or more of a challenge than it is in any other community. We need to partner with our state and federal partners, but we need to show some skin in the game to get there. We can do that with the funding from local philanthropists, from our new business tax, and support that. But there's a variety of ways that we can do this. one innovative way could be that in market rate projects, to have more than just the 15% below market, we could pay for that margin and use that to have more units. So I think there's a lot of things we can do to do this, and it's critical that we do it in an organized way. I'm a big fan of comprehensive area plans so that we can look at city services, schools, and have complete holistic neighborhoods.
Thank you. Mr. Loying?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've been kind of working on this for, frankly, the last 6 years and the last 18 months very intensively on the housing element working group. And affordable housing for me is like a moral imperative beyond any sort of quotas from the state. In terms of the ways we fund that, we are now going to add the Palmer fix, which is 15% inclusionary housing in rentals in addition to in purchases. That was passed by the council. So that was 0, and we got it to 15%. In terms of funding it, though, I think we got to get the corporate donors. I think some high income donors are a possibility. We have to push kind of all the buttons. There's a little bit we're going to get from the business tax, but not a lot. And I think we should even put big issues, big opportunities on the table, like a possible bond issue at some point. Time's up.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Suma next.
Thank you so much. I'm also very interested in creating affordable options and not only creating them, but retaining existing ones. And one of the ways we do that is by protecting cottage cluster developments, for an example. I was on the PTC ad hoc in 2018 that looked at affordable housing. So I have that experience. Ed mentioned that we are extending the inclusionary housing to for rent and not just for sale units. And I also think we should probably go up to 20% from 15%. We do have the housing tax, housing fund and the business tax, but those aren't going to be enough. Traditional housing is approved through federal tax credits, and those are hard to cobble those projects together in Palo Alto because of the cost of the land. But I think we need to do whatever we can. PTC just made a recommendation to council regarding affordable ADUs. So we'll see where that goes.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Hames, you're next, please.
I agree with much of what's been said. I appreciate that Ed says we have a moral imperative to build affordable housing. I could not agree with you more, Ed. I appreciate what Vicky said about we have to have skin in the game in order to receive funds from the state and the feds. This is hard work. And obviously there are people here who are running for office who have been at this hard work, and I respect them. I also want to say that we are behind. And it is time for us to figure this out. For some reason, our committee has been recalcitrant. The county civil grand jury has said, why is Palo Alto leadership not better at advocating for the imperative of affordable housing? That's the kind of leader I'll be. I love the notion of a coordinated area plan. I love what we did south of Forest when we took the old Palo Alto Medical Foundation down. To me, we need to replicate what happened at what we call SOFA about 15 or 20 times throughout the city with market rate and below market rate housing together.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, Palo Alto is not set up to be the affordable housing as we speak. We've been building about 30 affordable housing units a year over the last few years. The cost of an affordable housing unit like the Milton Court is about $850K. That will not happen through private development. We really need to get in the driver's seat. We need in-house real estate expertise, first of all. We really need actually a real estate development office, just like other entities like Stanford got in place. I do have a comprehensive plan when it comes to a proposal to achieve for the housing element numbers without destroying the character of Palo Alto. About 3,000 units that we could achieve by partnering up with Stanford, about 1,000 units through city-owned parking lots, and almost 6,000 units or so by the airport. And that will also provide with $50 million to the city budget as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek, you're next, please.
Yeah, affordable housing is so important. Right now, there's nowhere for our teachers and our firefighters and our police officers to live. And so this city is really going to be at a loss if we ever have a major earthquake or something, and we need these people to be here. They're not going to be here. They're going to be where they live. So affordable housing is really kind of essential for many reasons. And I think that the best way, the reason that it's so hard to get done here is that the cost of the land is so high. The city does own some land, and maybe it should repurpose some of that for affordable housing. I think that that's a really great idea. We could combine surface parking lots into parking structures to free up some land. We should also partner with Stanford and the large tech companies that are around here and see if we can get them to help out. And we can reduce all the fees and that currently have been increasing over the last couple of years and decades. So we can make those reduced for affordable housing.
Thank you. Ms. Forsell?
Thanks. I'm really glad to hear that all of us really want to build this affordable housing. I think it's important. I agree it's a moral imperative. I agree that our community needs the people that will live in the affordable housing to enrich our community. I think it's a combination of tactics, requiring market rate housing to have the highest possible percentage of affordable housing, both to own and to rent. I think we do need to go a little bit denser, a little bit taller, a little bit less restrictive parking requirements in order to incentivize developers to build. There's potential in city-owned land, our parking lots, Coverly, other areas, partner with nonprofits, get shovel-ready projects. And then we can start to reach out to our state and county representatives, call our congresswoman, try to get additional funding to get these projects actually built.
Thank you. Our next question is about electrification and climate goal. Electrification of our homes and businesses will be an important focus towards achieving the city's climate goal. However, to meet this goal, the city needs to significantly upgrade its grid. How should those upgrades be financed? Ms. Forsell, you'll be the first one. Please go ahead.
The upgrades should be financed with the utility funds that are already in reserve for projects like these. We need to replenish the reserves. Obviously, I think one of the insights that's unavoidable is that our rates will go up somewhat in order to build the new infrastructure that we need to build. There are also federal funds available. The Inflation Reduction Act that has a lot of climate provisions. There's state money, and it again comes back to shovel-ready projects that have been identified so that we can apply for grants and apply the funds to the infrastructure work that we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek?
Yeah, I'm not going to necessarily claim that I'm an expert at utilities or what it's going to cost or where that money should come from. I think that obviously any kind of state or federal money that we can get as part of this electrification process, we should definitely try to pursue. Otherwise, I would like to see a way that we can do it without increasing utility rates, but I don't know if that would be possible or not. Hopefully it can be done.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, I believe this is a top priority for our city, and unlike other projects like the speed internet, the fiber project, I believe that if we happen to have the budget within our city budget to address a project, I would rather reroute funds from the fiber project to actually to improving our grid, which I truly believe is actually a lot more important than the fiber project, which is already addressed by the private sector. So yeah, I truly believe that besides that, we should also apply, like others said, to county, state, and federal funds as well. But it looks like we might be able to do that within our city budget if we reprioritize our priorities.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Thank you. Not to be redundant, but we're going to have to use the funding sources that we know are out there, our own funds, and we're going to want to replenish those funds when we can from taxes and impact fees. And then going after being ready to jump at any opportunities that come up in federal or state funds. It's absolutely necessary that we upgrade our grid. So from my understanding from the UAC and our utilities professional staff, that we do that if we can be successful in electrifying. So we don't have a choice. It's something we really absolutely need to do, and I'm committed to it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. Loying next.
Okay, thank you. We have a lot of big priorities that need a lot of funding. I think we could probably pretty easily agree on this screen that this is the number one. We can't not upgrade the grid because that makes so many other things dependent. And I think we just need to prioritize and say that, and we have to find funding for it. I don't agree with a couple of candidates that I've heard and read say we can do anything in Palo Alto because we can source enough money. I don't think that's true. But in this case, there's just absolutely no choice. This is the one that we have to fund, number one. And I do think that I'm relatively optimistic about the federal funding on this, but Lisa's right in terms of the other categories that she meant about utilities funds as well.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Winker next.
All right, well, thank you. And yes, Ed, I agree that we have to do this. But if we think about, we're going to be doing this over a period of years as we transition to electrification, so say 10 or 12 years. And during that period, we should remember that appliances may get more efficient, and we can right size our EV charging and other things so that we could reduce. It might not be a linear progression of what we need as we transition. So when you think about it that way, it's not quite as scary, but yet we're still going to take substantial funds. We have this utilities fund. I think the federal government and their recent legislation around climate will be helpful. But even if we have to increase our rates a little bit, we are significantly below PG&E right now by 30–40%. And so if ours go up a little bit, we'll still be ahead of the game and we'll be more climate friendly.
Thank you. And our last candidate is Ms. Litka Haynes for this question.
Yes, thank you. I agree with much of what's been said, and I don't have expertise to add here. And this is a way that I would demonstrate listening to those who may know more about me on a subject and being willing to go along with their recommendation. What I will say is I'm officially on record in the Daily Post as saying I'm not going to be happy about putting a whether we should turn off natural gas vote to the voters in a referendum. And I got some blowback for saying that, but I'm going to reiterate it here. I believe scientists, just like I believe public health officials. It is clear that fossil fuels are contributing to the warming of our climate. We have to turn off the gas at some point, not tomorrow, but one day. And leadership means articulating a vision, narrating to it, listening to the fears of residents about why they can't and don't want to and are afraid, validating those fears, but ultimately making the tough decision and leading the way with our own personal behaviors. I just ripped out my gas furnace and replaced it with an electric heat pump.
Thank you very much. Our next question relates to rail and grade separation. Each rail and grade separation option will have an impact on the nearby neighborhood. How would you balance the preferences of immediate neighbors with the needs of the entire community? Please be specific. Mr. Hammercheck, you'll be the first.
Yeah, I think in general, I always defer to the immediate residents that are going to be impacted. Although rail is one of those things that really impacts the whole city, so some preference has to be given overall. I think that the news just came out about the Alma Street bridge being replaced. And now we're in a time crunch to kind of finalize our grade separation. It's just indicating of how we've stalled for way too long on this project. We need to just make some progress, pick a way forward. And there's no option where everyone's going to be happy, but we need to move forward or we're going to all be unhappy.
Thank you. Ms. Winker?
Thank you. Well, yes, this is one where we're going to have to pick the best option, not necessarily a good option, and there will be trade-offs as this question indicates. I think what we have to do is decide that we have to get this done, but let's talk to the immediate neighbors in that area and see what is the least invasive way to do it, and then see if that's doable. Some of the options, such as require technical analyses of the soil to make sure we can do them. We need to look at the traffic impact on others in town. I mean, ultimately, we have to do this for public safety because everybody cares about the safety of bikes and pedestrians as they cross these at-grade crossings. We have got to do it. So while we should listen and take into account the interests of neighbors, ultimately we have to make a decision and move forward.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Haynes.
Y'all, we are a magnificent city of 68,000 people. It is virtually impossible to get all of us on board with one thing. And this is where leadership comes in. So we have to listen and we have to lead. And unfortunately, grade separations is another example of where our city has stalled. And that's just an objective fact. There are 113 train crossings, I'm told, between San Francisco's stop and San Jose's last stop. And 72 of them have done their grade separation, separate the train from the road. We haven't. And we have 4 crossings that need to be done. We're behind. And that inability to make a tough decision is going to bite us in the behind in 2 years when an electrified Caltrain is coming through, sending more trains per hour during commute times. So I'd like us to decide and get a move on because I want to have as little gridlock as possible. And so that's where we are. I like the viaduct.
Thank you. Ms. Forcell.
The crossings at Meadow, Charleston, Churchill, and Palo Alto Ave are going to get so much better, whatever design we choose, because we're going to have either an overpass or an underpass, but it's going to be better for bikes. It's going to be better for pedestrians. It's going to be better for traffic. And I have a set of designs that I like better, but I don't feel that we need to repeat the process. The XCAP has had a large suite of community meetings. There has been design work. The city council, I think at this point, needs to lead by picking one, acknowledging that there is no perfect option. You cannot make everybody happy. I will definitely listen to everybody in the community who has their point of view, but I acknowledge I'm not going to be able to make everybody happy. I think the most important thing is to make a decision and move forward because it's going to get really a lot worse before it will eventually get totally awesome and better once we build them. Thanks.
Ms. Suma.
Thank you. So I too think it's time to make a decision. I think the council has pretty much made a decision about the Churchill crossing. I think that the downtown crossing should be made in conjunction with the downtown area plan. So that's a holistic design. And then I have a strong preference for the 3 recommended bike and ped crossings to go up first, and to have South Palo Alto crossings shovel ready to go, as they will need to go first. We've had a long process even before the XCAP of community outreach about these crossings and grade seps. You're never going to make everybody happy with anything, whatever is selected, but we have to do something. And I believe that the most egregious options have been removed, and those were the ones that were worse for the environment and worse for the neighbors living immediately nearby. Those have already been removed. So I say, let's move on and get something done here and be ready for funds.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa.
Yes, this is at least a $1.2 million project, so I don't think we really have to rush on this one. I think we should work with Caltrain and neighboring city to reevaluate the technical standard and to improve design and reduce cost. My first presence, in the sexiest design would definitely be the magic bullet, go under with a tunnel. And I would like to see potentially a study that will show how much land we would be owning on top of the current rail roads or so, and who's going to own that, what's the value of that, And if we can offset, the cost of going under with the real estate that we could end up on top of that tunnel, we can convert that into public, open spaces, public spaces, with so many opportunities. I think we should look into that before making up our mind. We are in the middle of Silicon Valley, and it looks like we are dozens of years behind Europe and Japan.
Thank you. Mr. Lyon, please go ahead.
There it goes. Yeah, I want to go back to your original question, was really more about the decision-making process rather than the preferred design. And I think the original question was, how do we make this decision? Is it more about the individual neighbors or the bigger picture? And I think the starting point is with the individual neighbors, and we've had that. And the final point is we have to make a decision that's best for the city in terms of all traffic flow. For example, closing Churchill didn't just affect people at Churchill, it really was going to affect Embarcadero in a major way. And so council pulled back and took that off the table. So that's the kind of process analysis. But at the end of the day, have to make a best decision for the city. And we're definitely not going to make everybody happy with this one. Our situation is a little bit different because we have 4 crossings instead of like 2, which Mountain View has, and they closed 1. And so they had 1 more to deal with. So ours has been a little bit more complicated, but time to get a move. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is on campaign finance. Palo Alto Council campaigns are very expensive compared to a number of nearby cities. In order to lessen the appearance of undue influence and encourage candidates without access to wealth to run, what changes, if any, would you support if elected? Mr. Lyon, you'll be the first one.
Okay, thanks. I think this is primarily a question about transparency, because if everything's on the table, then a voter can decide if they think that that's good or bad. And the first thing is that we know where we should follow the money. Where are our donations coming from? And what the starting point for that is how many of them are from in or outside of Palo Alto. I think it's a local election, and we ought to be having most of our donations coming from here. In the last election at the end of October, 3 candidates of 8 reporting had 30% that were not coming from here. So that's the first thing to look at, is where's it coming from. The second thing that we've talked about before is that in terms of total money, because of the political party donations, that should be counted as part of the donations that are taken in, and that should be reported. So I think reporting and transparency is the key issue here.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, transparency is critical. I truly believe that we need a campaign, reform. I would support, if rules obviously will be set from the beginning, I would support an individual cap of 250, 500, whatever that would be, maybe an overall cap of 200, 20K or so. I think it's ridiculous that some people would need to raise 100K plus or so to compete. When it comes to transparency, maybe, everyone should disclose, when it comes to staff, paid campaign managers and so forth, versus volunteers. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to keep the cap low, so we can actually have more people applying for this job, since it looks like it's a high barrier for most
Thank you.
candidates. Thank you.
Ms. Winker?
Yeah, and thanks so much for this question. This is a serious question at every level of our democracy. Campaign finance reform is something I support, but we're not near to having public financing of campaigns. And so in the meantime, we have independent expenditures that are, legal. So with that out there, we need to have the transparency so voters can at least see who's paying for what. And with that out there, I don't think it's appropriate to cap candidates in their overall amount they can raise, but I do believe so that any individual voter or donor doesn't have too much influence, I do support individual donation caps, and in fact have taken one in this race at $1,000, which is $3,900 below the legal limit in this race. So I'd like to see less money spent. I'd like to see equal access to that money, but in the meantime, I believe in individual donor caps and transparency to see who's spending, who's donating what to whom.
Thank you. Ms. Lithcock-Hames.
I want to start by thanking the League for your leadership on this issue. I know you have presented a proposal to our city council. I believe you proposed a cap of $500 per person. I believe that's right. If I'm wrong, forgive me on the details, but I want to nevertheless applaud your leadership. Like Vicky, I have voluntarily capped my donations at $1,000. I did that because I do not think money should buy election results. And sadly, the Supreme Court and I disagree. So until we get true campaign finance reform at the federal level, here we are at the individual local level, trying to do our best to be ethical and fair and run our campaigns. So I like the notion of transparency. I think that's important, follow the money, but don't think it's enough actually, because money still buys more eyeballs on your message. So I'd actually support a spending cap. I'd love it if we all had the same amount of money to spend, because then we could have confidence that it's the quality of our message, not the dollars that ultimately win or lose.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek.
Yeah, I think the campaign reform is desperately needed in Palo Alto. Right now, there's just a handful of families that have an outsized influence on which candidates are going to get their message heard, and that doesn't seem very fair. I think the transparency, although is important, I don't think that that's going to be enough because there's too many loopholes to get around that. I don't know the specific details, but something about giving your campaign a loan and then paying it back after the election. There's a lot of loopholes. So transparency doesn't seem to be doing it now. I would definitely support a cap on individual contributions. I would say 250. And that way, whoever has the widest support gets their message heard the most. And that seems fair to me.
Thank you. Ms. Forcell.
I definitely support having some form of campaign finance reform. I would love to start with something moderately restrictive, do a pilot, see how it goes, and then maybe grow from there. I would happily support a limit on contributions. I would suggest 500 or 1,000 to start. I'd totally support a limit on expenditures, 20 or 30 or 40K to start. I also have a limit of $1,000. I would happily go to half of that or a quarter of that if it was the rule for all candidates. And I also think that the city maybe could consider throwing in some city funds, maybe $5,000 for each candidate to help, level the playing field, make it more equitable. They already do a wonderful thing, which is to pay for the ballot statement. A lot of cities don't do that, and candidates have to pay, I think, $4,000 to get their ballot statement. So let's do more of that as a city as well.
Thank you. Rounding us out is Ms. Suma.
Thank you so much. So everybody wants transparency, and that's why my campaign, and I'm sure the others, have made all their reportings on time. I got a late start, so I'm still trying to catch up with some of the other campaigns. So that may put me in a different position. But I would like to say that limiting campaign donations and leaving independent expenditures from PACs and super PACs legal, which I understand it is at the federal level, means you can never be equal that way. I would like to say that somebody didn't need money to run in this city, but you really do need money to run in this city. And so I think at the present time, you can't get there by just limiting campaign donations because of the tremendous effect of PAC and super PACs on a campaign.
Thank you very much. Next question deals with redevelopment of Cubberley. Cubberley is a valuable asset to the community. However, it's falling apart. In the past, it appears that the school district and the city haven't been united in planning for its future. What specific steps will you take to collaborate with the school district in order to move the project forward? Ms. Lithcock-Hames, you'll be the first one to answer.
Yeah, I've used the word gridlock a few times, and I'm going to use it again here. Our inability to move forward with this dilapidated, important but dilapidated structure is seemingly emblematic of where Palo Alto leadership has been lately. So I'm a highly collaborative person. If elected, I'm going to work to develop relationships of trust and mutual respect with as many members of the school board as is possible. I'm excited by a few candidates already in that regard. Look, I think I've already talked about how the South of Forest Coordinated Area Plan project should be a model for what we do around the city to meet our housing needs. I happen to think Cubberley is an area for mixed use, some nonprofit space, a cafe, a gym, retail, housing. I'd like to see housing up on Cubberley. And look, I think we need a vision for 2050, not a decision for tomorrow. That's what ultimately I'm all about. And Cubberley's a great place to start.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Thank you so much. So I think the city council has an obligation always to work with the Palo Alto United School District. Our school system is a jewel in our crown, and we have a responsibility to work with them. That being said, they don't seem very willing at this point because of uncertainties to give up a lot of square foot acreage there. There's some talk of a swap, not sure what's going to happen exactly with that. My vision for Cubberley, especially given the densification and growth in Palo Alto required by the state and that we all know is coming and want to see, is to keep it as a community center. We desperately will need it with even more people. And in doing so, we'll have to make sure that the school is comfortable with whatever decision we make together. And in the meantime, I think we have to maintain it. It may be a little shabby, but it's our shabby chic. We love her.
Thank you. Mr. Lyon?
I like the word that you used, Dory, that it's our jewel, because I think it is for the whole city, not just South Palo Alto, because it gets that kind of use. You know, when I had a kid, I had him in 2 different sports. He was in young fives down there all the time. And I think it needs to get fixed up, but I don't think it needs to get crushed and rebuilt and take 10 years to do it or 5 years to do it. I said in some form or another, I don't think it has to be the Taj Mahal. Let's just do a remodel there and get it going. So I don't think it needs an area plan or a big consultant. It's got such a wonderful vibe, particularly from those nonprofits that are there. I love the place. I was down there about 3 weeks ago and was kind of feeling that. So, you know, it needs some rehab. It is falling apart, but the people still love it. And I think we should focus on that. There is no housing in the housing element for that at this time, which means that we don't actually need it for arena numbers. So we don't actually have to put it in there right now. So make it a community center and, you know, let it sing.
Thank you. Ms. Winker?
Yes, thank you. So when I mentioned at the top that I've been hearing frustration from voters about our slow pace of decision making, this is definitely one of those issues where we hear about it often. We had a candidate forum on Cubberley, and all of the candidates talked about how meaningful that site is and how much we could and should do with it. But we've been through 2 master planning processes that a lot of earnest people have put a lot of good hours into. And so we really need to respect that and try to move forward quickly. And thanks for the question, because working with the school district is a key way to do that. Anytime we try to move forward, we should make sure we're talking to all the stakeholders. Council and the district should have a good relationship in any event. And this would be a good vehicle for helping further that. We need to find out from them. Will they do a land swap? Will we get more acres? Can we do it more quickly? Will they keep some back for an alternative high school? What should happen? We need to know that so that we can have the basis to make decisions and move forward with this gem of our community.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, I do agree that Cubberley is a gem for our city. We've learned actually from a previous forum that the Palo Alto Unified School District would be okay with keeping just 5 acres out of the 35. So that changes our plan quite a bit. Being able to potentially own 30 acres, it's really a true opportunity to do something really, really great for our city. So since it's such a big chunk of land, I think, we could potentially look into a project that could be done in phases, especially since we will be short on funds. So maybe we can keep the grass fields and the soccer field intact. Maybe we develop, right by middle field. Maybe, we go at 2 stories, 3 stories up or so. I heard from neighbors that mixed use is not a good fit. So maybe we should look into a truly community center with a community gym and so forth.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek.
Yeah, after speaking with some of the new incoming school board members, it seems like a land swap might be possible. And on that form where we reviewed the new plans for Coverly, I mean, that does look really nice. And at the time, I was really kind of sold on it. But after speaking with a lot of the residents in the area and thinking about how other projects in the city have gone, like the Junior Museum, which took years and then ended up having its own disadvantages with the new structure, I'm a little bit more hesitant to say that we should take on another huge project. I think that there's priorities, and the city council needs to focus on what's going to impact the city the most. And maybe that's a project where upgrading and waiting is appropriate. But eventually, I would like to see that land used for something that really benefits the city. But maybe now is not the time.
Thank you. Ms. Forsell?
Thanks for the question. I'm optimistic at this point that there will be going forward an opportunity to re-engage with the school district and the school board over what to do with Coverly. I think, when I've been out talking to people, there's a lot of interest and a lot of desire to move forward. And it's easy to butt heads over whether you think it's more important to be an educational facility or community center or athletic fields or parkland or affordable housing. What I don't hear anybody saying is they want to continue with leaky roofs and peeling paint. We talked about, what we can do to incentivize affordable housing. And again, city-owned land is one of the most valuable assets we have. So I would definitely like to see affordable housing there. And I would definitely like to engage with each individual school board member to discuss how to move forward and to get some of the great new facilities that we all agree we need.
Thank you very much. Next question deals with priorities. What are the 3 most important priorities you want to tackle if elected? Ms. Suma, you'll be the first one for this one.
Okay, thank you. I think everyone's going to say climate change and housing, but I'm going to talk about crime and safety first, because I really think the other 2 are so present and we all know it. But I feel like the people of Palo Alto that I've talked to are really, really concerned about this issue. And I think part of it is the way things are reported and the way we communicate with one another that is so facile now compared to before, but also because the crime is changing a little bit. It's not just crimes against property, but more people are being assaulted, if that's the correct police term. So I really want to work on that. And when I think of safety, I also think of safety as a health and wellness issue for our youth who have been stressed out by regular mental health issues, but also so much by COVID. I mean, locking those kids up inside and of all ages was really, really hard on them. And you read a lot about, oh, sorry.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lidcock-Hames, please go ahead.
I appreciate that Doria decided not to focus on climate and housing because we're kind of all in that boat if those are 2 big issues. Youth mental health is my third. But what I want to really do in answering this question is speak about how we make decisions as leaders. I think we have experienced a slow down process. Wilton Court, the one affordable housing project we have built recently, took like 6 years. Castellea took like 5 or 6 years. Coverly is not yet a thing. Maybell, where we're supposed to have affordable housing 10 years ago where I live, didn't happen. In part because we just haven't figured out how to be in relationship with the residents of this city, how to face tough problems together and make decisions in a timely manner. Frankly, that's what I think our residents need and deserve more than anything.
Thank you. Ms. Forcell.
As I said at the start, my top three priorities are housing, transportation, and climate. Yes, we have talked about housing. And I just want to say, I'm excited about housing, not just because it's a state mandate. I'm excited about the state mandate. I'd be happy to go beyond the state mandate. I think we need to grow our community. And I think that adding housing is going to be a rich and wonderful addition to Palo Alto. Transportation, I mentioned a few things in the opening, bikes, transit. And also there's a lot of really cool technology around timing traffic lights and controlling your own streets through algorithms that apply to UPS and Amazon and Waze that I'd like to look into. And finally on climate, also adaptation, given that sea levels are rising and we're going to have to deal with it real soon.
Thank you. Mr. Hemechek.
Yeah, I think that the number one issue would be listening to the residents more, and that the city staff and the council standing up for the residents and being willing to push back against city staff. And that would speed up the process if maybe we were willing to just say no when something doesn't make sense. And it's not making so many exceptions and going back and forth. That might be one way to speed up the process. I think public safety is also a really big issue. We need to increase the funding to the police force and get them back to full staff. And then housing, but I would say housing, but not at the expense of existing residents.
Thank you. Mr. Loying.
Yes, I appreciate Doria's comments on that in terms of sort of starting with safety, and I would do that too. And one reason is that there's some short-term things there that I think we can get done and have some immediate impact. Working with the new chief on different ways to do patrols and stuff that isn't going to be, by definition, a 5 or 8 year project that we have to work on. So it's just so essential that we just take care of our citizens. And another example of public safety is, safe crossings, so that we're not having these near collisions, which we're dealing with in the Planning Commission in about 2 weeks now, at our request to have the transportation come there. I just want to say one thing about priorities. That's absolutely correct. As a council, whoever's on there with the people that are there, we can't give 100 different number one priorities to the city manager and expect them to get done. So we have to pick a few, focus on them, and make sure they're going to get done.
Thank you. Ms. Winker.
Yes, so my priorities, like many others, are housing and climate, and also restoring city services. And by those, I mean police and fire, public safety services, libraries and parks. And this has to do with our budget. And budgets are statement of values. And so we have to align our budget with our values and our priorities. And to do that, we do have to be in relationship with each other. So my overarching goal is that the decision-making on council is more fluid and happens more quickly. That's what I'm an expert in, is getting to yes with groups who disagree, and also putting the right process to the problem. So you try to build consensus, you talk to stakeholders, you listen to residents, you talk to each other, you develop respect and relationship. But at some point you just have to make a decision. So you have to be bold enough to lead and take that vote when the time is right. And the time is right on a lot of issues that have been long pending in Palo Alto.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa.
My top priorities are public safety, small businesses, and affordable housing. Public safety is becoming actually my top priority as we speak. The more people I talk to, I realize that we really need to improve our public safety. We came here, or we live here to enjoy one of the best places in the world, and that has been changing over the last few years. So we really have to improve that. Small businesses, we need to revive the downtown California Ave and so forth. I'm a small business owner. I feel for those family-owned businesses. We really have to help them. Affordable housing, we really get into the driver's seat. It's a $10 billion project. We need real estate, in-house real estate expertise. we really need to do that while preserving the character of Palo Alto, and there are ways of achieving that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now switch to our 30-second questions. For those of you who missed the beginning of the forum, we've extended our finish time from 8:30 to 8:45 tonight in order to cover more issues, and we hope you will stay with us till the end. Our first 30-second question brings housing and transportation back to focus. The City Council has indicated much of the housing growth should take place along the San Antonio Road corridor. However, this area is very congested. A specific area plan may be the answer, but it takes years to develop. What do you see as the biggest challenge in developing this area? Ms. Winker, please go ahead.
Well, I think there are a couple of big challenges. One is the transportation issue, like to schools. So children would need to cross San Antonio, which is a significant thing. There are ways we could look at that, but that would be a barrier. One of the other concerns about housing along that area is south of San Antonio. I believe there are some environmental issues that may limit the range of housing that we can build. And obviously we want our new residents to be safe.
Thank you. Mr. Lawing?
Outstanding question, impossible in 30 seconds, but we have to do a complete look at the transportation corridor there, which I put into a motion on planning when we put a housing overlay in there. That's absolutely crucial, and we have to have ways for two-wheel vehicles that are non-motorized to go everywhere there. It does need some serious planning, and we're not just going to throw skyscrapers up, filled with people without having sort of neighborhood built in.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Yes, that was the challenge with identifying those sites, and one project that the Planning Commission recommended approval of there, that since we're changing from a non-residential use there to a residential use, we don't really have the kind of amenities that we have in other neighborhoods. So I think we have to look really carefully and hard at how we can provide safe routes to school, parks, walkable access to groceries and things of that nature. And the traffic is going to have to be studied. And I'm not sure how much leeway there is to really improve.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, again, I think we really need to get in the driver's seat, and we cannot wait to have that happen through private developers. The upzoning is not the answer. You move from 50 to 60 feet, guess what? The land next door gets more expensive and so forth. So it's a domino effect. I don't think that's the answer. I believe we need to look into Mountain View, Los Altos to make sure that whatever we do, that area will be integrated with the neighboring cities, with the El Camino corridor when it comes to traffic, bike lanes, and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Forcell?
I will say, I do think I would like to spread growth more evenly throughout the entire city and not concentrate all of it along the San Antonio corridor. But the San Antonio corridor is a very important place for new development. I want to speed up the process. I think it shouldn't take years and years to develop a specific area plan. If we move fast, if we don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough, I think we can make a great area plan, make sure there's a bike bridge over to the rest of town, make sure there's green space, and get that plan made so that development can proceed and feel like Palo Alto.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Haynes.
I agree with Lisa. In many ways, I'm very concerned about all of this housing proposed for San Antonio. It feels like dumping a bunch of housing in an area that isn't close to schools, doesn't have safe routes, no green space, trees, not near transit, not to mention totally lacking in the Palo Alto character we all cherish. Why? I would rather see an entire city constructed of neighborhoods built out, take our existing neighborhoods and build them out and build them up, neighborhoods that are walkable to jobs, retail, transit, and schools. And San Antonio is not yet remotely that.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek.
Yeah, I think this is an example of one of those kind of projects that we don't want to rush. We want to get it right. So if it's going to take 2 years to come up with a really well thought out specific area plan, I think that would be perfectly fine with me. The last thing I would want is for our San Antonio to turn into what Mountain View's done with their San Antonio, because to me, that would be a travesty. So if it takes 2 years to plan something that actually fits into Palo Alto with parks and everything that's needed to not have a negative impact, then that would be fun.
Thank you. Next question deals with water conservation. Should Palo Alto residents be doing more to conserve water given the drought? And if so, what should we do? Mr. Kamsa, please go ahead.
That's a great question. I believe 25% of our water demand falls on our roofs. We should definitely look into storing that for a later use, like a battery concept. You know, we use that energy for later on. Smart climate programs equates into water storage. And I truly believe we should allocate funds for water storage. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Forsell?
Palo Alto residents should definitely be doing more to conserve water. We have not yet hit the water savings rates that this year that we've had in past droughts. So we know there's some low hanging fruit. Also, we should cut back on commercial landscaping. And the only thing to remember is we still need to water our trees. Our canopy is super important, and we want to make sure we preserve that while we do our water conservation efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Hamichek?
Yeah, my guess is that the largest place that people still have to conserve water would probably be their landscaping. I know I just recently replaced the lawn with artificial lawn, and my water bill has gone down dramatically. I think that also encouraging native plants and with commercial as well would also help.
Thank you. Mr. Lawing?
Yes, I think while the idea of the water falling off the roof is quite attractive, until it gets seamless for the homeowner, I just don't think it would practically happen. So we have to do cuts rather than, sort of the stick rather than the carrot. And I think we should probably be doing that right away. We're still in a drought, second year in a row. I just had a tree guy here. He said things are in trouble. Keep watering your trees, but nothing else. So I think we have to just cut.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Hames?
This is an area where leadership can really get out in front with videos and social media and flyers up around the city saying, we're in a mega drought, folks, and that means we all have to tighten our water belt. We have to lead by example. You just don't hear enough people talking about it, other than my mother, who always reminds me we're in a mega drought. Like Brian, we switched over from grass to artificial turf, but we all need to be doing that. We all need to be modeling that. We need signs in our yard saying, my yard is brown because I don't water. We got to motivate our neighbors.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
So, yes, we should do more, but what I think we should do is see this not as a drought as much as the new future. We are going to have to find different ways to find water. Palo Alto is already working on a new water reclamation plant. We had a purple pipe, it was called system before, but that water was really not usable and didn't go many places in the city. So we're working on a much better plan, and it's just key that we approach this not as an occasional event, but the direction that we're going. And yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Vinker?
I have to remember this.
Yeah, so the question about, should we do more? We need to do more both individually and collectively. So yes, the water saving, plumbing and watering our yards and should be reduced, but also collectively as a city, we need an expanded use of water recycling, and we should be doing advanced recycling so that we can even make potable water and drinking water from it. And the technology's there, and the exciting new climate plan looks to institute it.
Thank you. Our next question is this. What policy decision did the City Council make in the past that you agreed or disagreed with, and why? Ms. Forsell? Ms. Forsell? Ms. Forsell?
Yeah, no, sorry, I just had to think for a moment. I'm gonna just have to go with what's top of mind. I really respect the work of the SCAP ad hoc And I'm very excited about the new heat pump water heater pilot program and the new REACH codes. And I guess City Council hasn't officially decided on them yet, but it did seem in the meeting on Monday as though they were also enthusiastic.
Great. Ms. Hammercheck?
Yeah, I would say that in the past year, one decision that I disagree with would have to be the Castellet decision to increase enrollment for the school, despite their repeatedly not following their previous mandates and coming up with not a very good explanation on how they're going to increase enrollment without having an increase in traffic.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
I would go with the business tax on this one. I initially was skeptical about the business tax proposal. I was mostly concerned about small businesses, but as soon as that proposal got improved, the exemption got bumped up from 5K to 10K. 95% of the small businesses are protected. I think it got to a level where it's good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Well, the one recently that was most disappointing to me was the loss of the 70 units at the President Hotel Apartments. That being said, I'm very happy with the hard work done on the K&L, measures K&L, the gas transfer and the business tax, and very excited about the project Home Key AB 140 transitional housing project that's going to be near the Baylands.
Thank you. Ms. Vinker?
Yeah, one of the decisions that I was very pleased with from council recently was to approve the housing, the multifamily housing on West Bayshore, because that was transition of office space to housing. It was adjacent to a park, so lots of green space. There was bird safe glass, so we care about the environment. And most important, I believe it was unanimous, so it can be done. There is hope and reason for optimism.
Thank you. Mr. Loin?
That project was also unanimous coming out of PTC, so that was unanimous. We can get that done too. I just wanted to comment on the NV cap, which I thought did not happen correctly at all. And I mentioned this one just because as a sort of warning of how we could improve it, whoever is going to be on council. We need to do check-ins for projects that are in process, because that one got out of hand after it got to staff, and they just ignored all the objectives that council had originally set. So guess what? Voted against it at PTC, went back to council. I say, yeah, that's terrible. So they had to restart. That's wasted time.
Thank you. Ms. Litka-Haynes?
A decision I really agreed with and applauded was council's decision on the safe parking places. There was a lot of community feedback on that. Council listened thoughtfully and ultimately, in my view, came up with the right decision. And decision I disagreed with, frankly, was the tree ordinance. I love trees. However, this ordinance is going to prevent us from putting up ADUs and lot splitting our homes. It felt like a backhand way to prevent more housing from being built.
Thank you. Here is our next question. Name one of the current council members or candidates you would like to serve with and tell us why. Mr. Hammercheck.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but I wish I could remember it. But I'm excited to serve with pretty much anyone on the council. I think that it's a really diverse group with a lot of different views, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Ms. Vinker.
Yeah, so this is a question that I've declined to answer before, because I don't want to muddy the waters. And honestly, I would be happy. There's a lot of talent in this candidate pool. There's a lot of talent on that council. I'm happy to serve with any of them. And, I also think that I have support from current council members across a lot of the voting divides, and I'm very proud of that. And I would like to work that way on council myself.
Thank you. Ms. Litka-Haynes.
I feel like I could work with anybody on current council. I'm delighted to have the endorsement of Allison and Greg. In terms of candidates, I respect every person running. I think we're fortunate as a city to have a really strong group of talent here vying for these 3 spots. I feel I'm most aligned with Lisa Forcell. So I'll say a name since you asked for a name, but I really want to reiterate, I feel like I can work with anyone.
Thank you. Ms. Forcell?
I too feel like I can work with any of the current council members and any of these candidates. I will give you 2 names. I'm excited to work with Mayor Pat Burt, who has extensive knowledge and experience in our city, and I think brings a depth of leadership. And I would be very excited to serve with Julie Lithcott-Hames, should we both be elected. I like to say about Julie, she asks the questions I don't think to ask, and she says the things that I don't know how to say sometimes.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Well, I'm going to agree with some of my fellow candidates that said they couldn't answer, because I'm going to be able to work with anybody in this group who I think is a fantastic group of candidates, and anyone on council. I know a lot of the council members personally and have received endorsements, and you know, I could name 25 past council members that I would want to work with. That being said, it would be thrilling to share a seat on another, the August position of city council with my colleague from Planning Commission, Ed, but I would be happy to serve with anyone.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, my ideal council member would be a hybrid between among Greg, Allison, and Eric. Greg for the pro-business, pro-small businesses, in general, and Allison and Greg for their financial and analytical skills. But like everybody else said, I'm a bridge builder, and I can work with anyone in the current city council and pretty much with anyone on this panel.
Thank you. Mr. Lyon?
Yeah, I think I'm going to concur with Vicky on this one, because I've actually prided myself on being able to work with anybody, and I mean that sincerely, regardless of point of view, across the aisle, et cetera, because the idea is to work on the right project, and that should be done by everybody that's on council. So I would be eager to work with really. The goal is to get to the right outcome. Let me put it that way. And the people that are there now are trying to do that too.
Thank you very much. So that we can adjourn on time, this will be our last question. And the question deals with Measure K, which establishes a new business tax, and Measure L, which affirms the current natural gas utility revenue transfer practice. Is it important that these 2 measures pass? Why or why not? We'll start with Ms. Lithcott-Hames. You need to be unmuted.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I've used 10 seconds just trying to work the technology, and I'm still using time. I'm in favor of both of them. I wanted the business tax. I wish it was higher, but I appreciate this was the compromise that was going to get us started. So I'm excited about it. I mentioned it on my campaign. And L is important because we don't ever want gas to be cheaper than electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Thank you. I support both of them, and I don't just support them. We have to have them. We need that money to keep our budget just where it is now. And we're going to have to try to convince the voters that they are both worthy. The gas transfer is something we've done for years. The business tax is a huge step forward in the right direction.
Thank you. Ms. Finker?
Yes, I support both measures K and L. The gas transfer to go into our general fund. One, we've been we've been doing that, so we need to keep those funds available for things like libraries and parks and things from the general fund. But the business tax measure K is absolutely critical for affordable housing, public safety, and the grade separations we discussed earlier. Those are key things. We have it at a level that should retain businesses. I'm glad we're moving forward with that.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon.
Yes, I support both of them for reasons that others have mentioned. We basically, because we need the money, and I think it's a good position where we ended up on the overall tax that we'll get maybe 9 million a year, and we'll see how that works out. We're going to read some data before we would do anything more. I'm glad it's there. It's greater than zero, and let's get it voted for.
Thank you, Mr. Hamachek.
Yeah, I support both measures, and I think just because we need the money to fund all of the things we've been talking about tonight, and I don't think that the business tax will have a negative impact on the small businesses like I originally feared, and so I'm in favor of both.
Thank you, Ms. Forcell.
I support both measures. I like Measure K. I define community as everybody here, those who live here, visit here, do business here. Everybody needs to pay their fair share, and I include businesses in that. I'm excited about Measure L, as others have pointed out. We've been doing this for a long time, and I like to point out that if we were served by a different utility like PG&E, they would be paying dividends to their shareholders. Here in Palo Alto, we are the shareholders of our utility, and it's great to be able to pay dividends to our communities, to our own community, for things that we love, like our libraries and other community services.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa.
Yes, 100%. The funds will go for right causes. Small impact on affordable housing and public safety, but a huge impact on grade separation project. The $3 million will give us access to $350 million that we have access from Measure B from 2016, and then more funds available through Fed, so we could basically fund the $1.2 billion project potentially through this small step, which is a business tax of 9.6 million.
Thank you. I was told that we can squeeze in one more question, the very last one. I'd like to thank all the candidates for staying with the time. So this last question is regarding safe gun storage. Palo Alto now has an ordinance requiring guns to be locked securely in homes. Would you support the city making efforts to educate residents on their role in gun violence prevention, and how? Ms. Winker, please go ahead.
Yes, 100%, because safe handling at home is a huge thing. A lot of people don't realize that one of the biggest challenges and issues with gun safety is suicides. And if you can keep the gun out of the hand of the person at that critical moment, you can save a lot of lives. To do this, we have to educate. We need to do voter outreach. We need to let people know the consequences. We need more mental health services and resources for people who are dealing with those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Lyon?
I can hardly add anything more to that. I think Vicki said it just right. It's a tragedy, and the issue is convenience of the weapon. And so ways that we can educate people about that and make that weapon inconvenient. I've known of a couple cases where that was the only reason that a death occurred. So it has to do with outreach and education. School district is starting to do a pretty good job about that, but I think we need to join that party.
Thank you. Ms. Suma?
Yep, anything we can do to help with this situation. You know, guns in the home are so dangerous. They fall into the wrong hands, and there's no reason not to have the strictest gun laws about keeping them in safe places and keeping the ammunition in a different place, and not selling too much ammunition. There's no advantage to the other side.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Haynes.
I'm grateful to my friend and neighbor, Stacey Ashland, for her leadership on this issue. I signed the petition she was circulating about trying to create an awareness through the school district, and awareness in parents of the imperative to have safe gun storage. I'm also proud to have earned the support of Moms Demand Action Gun Sense. I'm a Moms Demand Action Gun Sense candidate based on my views about guns.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
I never own a gun. I don't own a gun now, and I can't speak much about this issue, but I can emphasize enough, how important it is to fix the issue of why we might be needing, guns, which is improving our public safety. So I would like to focus a bit more on the long-term solution, which is really, really, really fixing the public safety. So we don't really feel like actually the need of owning guns. I don't see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Forcell?
Yes, I too definitely feel strongly that we need to educate our community about gun safety and proper gun storage. Education through schools has already been mentioned. It occurs to me that this could be a great opportunity for police outreach and for police to simultaneously meet the community, and also they're in a great position to teach gun safety and gun storage.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much all for your thoughtful answers. We'll now have closing statements. A reminder that each candidate has 1.5 minutes. We'll start with Ms. Suma.
Thank you so much to everybody for attending tonight and for holding this forum. I think that I have the experience. I've worked on city issues a lot. I'm qualified, committed, and independent, and I will really work for everyone in this community. One of my strongest values is that it is appropriate for the future of Palo Alto to be determined primarily by the residents and not those who view Palo Alto in terms of profit they can make here. We need to maintain a welcoming, walkable, and livable community for our future. We're going to densify, and we know that's going to happen. We want it to happen, some of us, but it is going to happen. And so we need to preserve some of the things about Palo Alto that we love now and keep them for present and future residents. And I would be very proud to be a part of that and make some of those good choices that some of the leaders of Palo Alto before have made that benefit the whole community. And as I always like to say, I see Palo Alto as a community and not just a commodity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kamsa?
Yes, I'm open-minded, data-driven, and I use common sense. We all know that the residents are the core of our community, and I'm here to listen, adapt, and serve the community. That's why I'm actually being endorsed by people like you, by local, small, family-owned businesses. I also want to mention that really the future of Palo Alto is at stake here, and we should not be here to experiment with the future of Palo Alto. I have a proactive approach when it comes to the state-mandated housing element while preserving the character of Palo Alto. I also think that the city could use, could benefit from my land use experience, my balanced approach to housing, my commitment to a nonpartisan focus. And I really, really invite everyone to collectively join me in moving the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Winker?
Leaders need to be optimists, and I'm an optimist. We've heard a lot tonight about Palo Alto's failure to move forward on certain issues, but it's not for a lack of ideas. I believe in this town. I've worked with both the incredible leaders and the incredible innovators that we house here in our community over the last 30 years. And we just need to figure out how to get to yes, and that's what I do for a living. And I'm preparing for that inclusive type of policymaking through an inclusive campaign. I'm the only candidate that's endorsed by our county, state, and congressional representatives. I'm also endorsed by a majority of our current sitting city council members, including across some of our frequent voting divides. I'm privileged to be endorsed by Mayor Burt, council members Du Bois, Filseth, and Cormack. I'm also the only candidate endorsed by both the Sierra Club and the League of Conservation Voters. I'm also a Moms Demand Action Gun Sense candidate like Julie, and I earned a 100% rating from Planned Parenthood. These are important ways that we can bring a lot to the table to work together to solve our problems. And I am ready to help Palo Alto get to yes on the issues that we've discussed tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Lidcock-Hames.
Thank you so much for this wonderful forum. It's been a real pleasure. I have an uncommon skill set. I am a lawyer. I have been a Stanford dean, a senior dean, where I was a leader in building community and helping others thrive and making big changes. I've been a nonprofit board member on over 12 boards, a lot of them right here, some of them in our region, some nationally. And now I'm a writer and speaker on issues that plague our communities. I would argue that given the gridlock we've been experiencing on too many issues, what we need are people as council members who bring a commitment to break through the gridlock and reach compromises and agreements. That's why I'm stepping up to try to serve the city I love right now. I think my skills are precisely what we need. I am proud to be endorsed by Planned Parenthood as a 100% endorsed person. I'm also endorsed by the South Bay Labor Coalition. I'm proud to support labor. I'm also endorsed by the Santa Clara County Democratic Party. That one means so much to me. And I have other endorsements. We love our city, and rightly so, but we're regarded as a place where things take forever to get done. And that inertia is negatively impacting families, workers, our youth, our seniors. We've got to get going. We've got to build the city of the future, the city that our children's children will thank us for having had the guts and strength and brain and heart to put in place for them.
Thank you. Ms. Forsell?
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting this forum. Thank you, fellow candidates, for thoughtful answers. Thank you, listeners, for coming and contributing your questions. As I've mentioned, I'm running to serve the entire community, those who live here, work here, do business here, and visit here. I want us all to have a welcoming, affordable, and sustainable Palo Alto. I want Palo Alto to be a place where all generations thrive, that has strollers and walkers and lemonade stands on the sidewalks. I think we can grow our community and still keep it feeling special, great schools, great parks, green space, and public spaces. I believe my unique background, including my roots in the community, including PTA service, my educational background, my professional background at the intersection of art, technology, and management, and my experience and service on the Utilities Commission uniquely prepare me to serve on the City Council. I am proud to have the endorsements of Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, County Supervisor Joe Simidian, State Assemblyman Mark Berman, Mayor Pat Burt, Councilmember Allison Cormack, and all but one of my colleagues on the Utilities Advisory Commission. To anybody viewing, I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hamachek.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting this forum. It was great questions. I think that the next few years for Palo Alto are going to be really impactful, and it's really going to be the deciding on what the city's going to be like 50 years from now, if it's going to still be the Palo Alto that it was when I was growing up. And so I think that the good news is that I think all the candidates that are running would do a great job. And so I think the city is in good hands. And so that makes me really encouraged. I think that we should listen to the residents, and we need to be really careful on the decisions we make. We need to make sure that we don't lose the thing that makes Palo Alto special. Thanks again for hosting this, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Lawing.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for holding this forum. It was really good. Our city, we know this, our city faces, massive and complex issues, and some of the decisions the council makes in the next few years are going to affect the city for 50 to 100 years. That's high risk for voters, and you need to have confidence in voters that council is going to execute. So all of us here are asking for a big job, basically, and that's council member. And this is our interview. So what I bring to the interview is I've been there, I've done that, I've been successful. I want to do it again. That's just what my clients in executive recruiting asked me to do. Bring me somebody who's done it before, so I know that they can do it again. On the Planning Commission, I've served now for 6 years, that for decades it's been kind of a training ground for some council members. And why? Well, it's because we have some of the really big complex questions, but it's also where we have the biggest, thickest packets, almost just like council. So we do deal with tough issues there, and I have. In addition, I've served on the Parks Commission for 7 years, co-chair of the housing element now, and I have decades of business experience. And I'm really pleased due to the way that makes one effective, that I have a reputation as a team player and can play nice with everybody to get some sensible solutions. So I have proven results for you in your town. I'll do it again. And if I get one of the 3 seats on council, and so I'm going to respectfully ask for the job.
Thank you very much to all of our candidates. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto, I want to thank the candidates for their dedication in choosing to run for office and for participating in this forum. I also want to thank our audience for your engagement in our democratic process. A recording of this forum can be found on League's YouTube channel and on our website, LWVPaloAlto.org. All California voters will receive vote by mail ballots, which will be mailed starting the week of October 10th. We encourage you to visit votersedge.org. There, you will find nonpartisan, expanded information about candidates and ballot measures, and links to other sources of information about the upcoming election. Please encourage your family, friends, and neighbors, everyone, to vote in this election. We encourage you to vote early and be heard by November 8th. Thank you all. Good night.